You are looking at history up here. You're looking at a foundation for women's disc golf right here at this table. I'm Rebecca Duffy, and I am hosting with Jennifer Allen from PDJ Radio, and you might know her out on the course, MPO. MPO, sorry, FPO.
We're only doing a women's thing here. She's had a long week.
Long week. Just came from a press conference and called the regulator renegade. Yeah. So we want to thank everyone for being here. And Tita, who I'm going to introduce here in a second, she had this brilliant idea of doing Pioneer Ladies Panel, and along with Lynn Gerber, made it happen. And so here we are, and I would love to introduce PDJ number 83, inductee to the Hall of Fame way too late of 2016, Tita Ugalde.
Hey, so thank you so much for coming to my party. This was my excuse to gather my dear friends for decades. Thank you, ladies, for coming. This couldn't have been made possible without, well, Lynn Gerber. Thank you, Lynn. Lynn lives in the area. Thank you, Lynn. Lynn's husband, Roger, the Mebane Arts Center, and I have the list here. Idio Sports. This room is sponsored. This event is sponsored by Idio Sports, so we're wearing their shoes. Thank you, Idio Sports.
Still flexible.
We're wearing also grip equipment. All the ladies behind Rebecca received that G-Series grip bag, so that in some cases, Tami, for example, renewed her PDJ membership. Yes. Sheryl will play next year, but four of the five of us are playing this year. Throw Pink. Look at us. We're wrapped in Throw Pink. Thank you so much to Sarah and the Throw Pink Foundation. Innova. Yes. Innova Champion Discs. You see each of our ladies got some discs. And Throw Pink items, grip items, and some of those discs will be raffled. Make sure you buy raffle tickets. And of course, PDJ Radio, PDJ Media, thanks, Nick. Discovering the World, Disc Golf Foundation, Christina and Paul Kallstrom. If you walked in and you saw, here, the Her Story Traveling Museum, and Sarah Holcomb and others that have spent a lot of hours putting this together, Sherry as well. Charlie Burke, Tom McManus, and Elle Bonapane have donated very rare discs that we all signed that will also be raffled, and we'll have a silent auction as well. So we have lots of our friends to thank, but ultimately it's you. It's you that make this event happen. You, all the volunteers, the media, all together, our beloved sport is where it's at. So thank you very, very much.
I got it. You can keep that one. Okay, we're going to kick this off with the lowest PDGA number. This is PDGA number 68, Susie Horn. If you'd like to stand up, you can. Okay.
She is standing up. That's you, Cheryl.
Susie, when did you start playing?
I started playing in 1976. My husband Mark and I, we were volleyball players, and our friend Joe Battaglia said, "I've got a sport for you." Took us out to Oak Grove disc golf course in Pasadena, and the rest is history. We just love the sport, and we started out by playing with Ed Hedrick, Stork, Ed's sons. We had these corrugated poles in the ground, and I just played with the boys, and it was fun. It was great, great.
And you have not only played for this long, but you have helped TD one of the longest tournaments in history, running tournament, the Wintertime Open, for over 40 years.
Yes, we were, and we only kept doing it because we love all the players. I mean, you all are players. You know what it is, the community. You meet so many people. You meet the world. And I like to say it saved my marriage, probably also.
That's pretty amazing. Usually I thought that split it up, but that.
Together, we had to work together.
How many times have you beat Mark?
None, actually. He's a very good player. He's a world champion.
And are you really excited to play again this week with almost 400 women?
I am. I love this tournament. The first time I played it was in Rockland, California. Tita talked me into coming. And I wanted to play last year, but I fell and tore my rotator cuff, so I couldn't go to Madison. But I'm back. And it's just so exciting to see so many women. We see this many women playing, like there's one with every foursome at the Grove, but it's really hard to be brave enough to just go for it and play. So I'm so proud of you all for being here. It's really good.
All right, so we've already introduced her, but we're going to go back to number 83, Miss Tita. Tita, you have done great things. We know that you play with Stork Erotic a lot, and every time you're eating lunch, he seems to call you and go, "Are you ready to go play?" And you're ready. And you have to know that you have been an inspiration to a lot of us. But I want to know about your first ever disc golf tournament.
Okay. Well, we'll start with I was at the right place at the right time, because Whammo manufacturing company was in San Gabriel, California, which is right next to Pasadena, which is right next to Los Angeles. I lived in Los Angeles. I was born in Mexico, but grew up in Los Angeles. And after attending the Rose Bowl in 1975, the Los Angeles Frisbee Club started because of Dan Roddick. Jo Cahill, she's 004. She has been inducted into the World Disc Golf Hall of Fame. Watching Jo Cahill, and I had already been playing, my brothers since 72 catch, but not like attending a world championship. And so it was announced that the Los Angeles Frisbee Club was having this event of Frisbee golf, because we threw Frisbees at Oak Grove. When Susie refers to the Grove, that's Oak Grove, world's first permanent disc golf course. So I was there, and look what I played with. Yeah. Try throwing that. And our pins were 62 yards, 79 yards. And there were poles before the baskets were even invented, before Steady Ed said, we really need to define what it means to complete a hole. So I'm playing and with women, because I was, 16 years old. And this was a whole new world for me, a whole new world. Second language learner, if I would have stayed in Mexico, this would never have happened, really. And so I'm playing, and I didn't realize that I was like the only one who looked like me, who was like me. It was the beauty of the sport, even watching somebody else throw. By the way, at the Grove, I was playing with Susie and Mark, and Susie called her ace. And yeah, she's like, yeah. And we're going to name that hole Susie's Call. So I'm playing, and it gets to be tied. I didn't know about sudden death, but Stork, being Stork, Dan Roddick, he's like, oh, this is going to be good. There's two beautiful, majestic oaks at Oak Grove, and I hit the first oak. It falls, and she's got a nice drive, and then She throws another one, and I throw another one. She missed the third, but I got it in the third one, and that was it. And I won a 141, the world class 141, like this. It was in the package, though. That was, and we were just professionals. There weren't amateur divisions. We became we played, and we were all professionals. So I got to meet Dan Roddick, 003, 003, Joe Cahill, 004, and that was it for me. That was it. I was hooked. 16, how lucky was I? And how lucky am I? I will say to Jen, oh my gosh, yesterday I got to play with Stork. Today I got to play with Dave Dunapace, who designs the discs that I throw. How lucky am I? Right? I'm so blessed. Thanks for asking. Yeah.
Tita, I know you just wanted to keep it to one question, but I have to ask you, what advice would you give some of the younger players out there? Because we are filming this. So what advice would you give those younger players getting into the sport?
Oh, YOLO, baby. You know, it's you only live once. Oh, sorry, Cheryl.
I'm a Buddhist. We live 12 times.
That's true. That's true. So, if this opportunity comes, try to make it happen. Will it happen again? We don't know. But man, those memories, they stay with you. And play without fear. I have around my license plate, which says Frisbee, putt without fear. Right? Right. There you go. And breathe. Breathing is essential. Thank you.
Thank you, Tita.
Okay, we're moving up just a little bit to number 76. This is Sheryl Newland.
Hello.
I had the honor of already interviewing both Tita and Sheryl for the PDGA radio, and if you haven't heard that one, you need to go back and listen to that episode because we could have ran it for hours, and I was in tears laughing, and Sheryl probably gave a lot of information that we had to bleep out.
Yeah.
But we'll try to keep it a little cleaner today,
Okay.
but this is our boxcar mama. And so boxcar mama, let's start with that story.
Well, Tita, correct me if I'm wrong. The North American Series events were all around the country. Now, was LA the first one of the year?
Irvine.
Okay, Irvine was the first one of the year.
Second, actually, Santa Barbara. Then Irvine.
Oh, I thought Santa Barbara was second. Okay. So that's how, we didn't have very many tournaments like you all have today. We had them all around the country, and we had to travel. And we didn't have cell phones, and we had crappy cameras. Oops.
It's fine.
Okay.
That's it. That was good.
That's safe. Okay.
I have my bleep ready. I got it. I'm ready.
So, communication was difficult, to say the least. You had to go to one of these tournaments to find out all the new stuff that was going on. Long distance phone calls were very expensive, so you didn't do those. So, went to the LA, or wanted to go to the LA tournament, and being a college student and putting myself through college, I didn't have the money to go even in the van with everybody else and just sleep in the car or outside at a rest stop, getting the sprinklers turned on us all the time. Anyway, I know every rest stop between Seattle and LA on both sides, Anyway, so I didn't have the money, so everybody left me, and I was sad. And Pete Foost was another person that got left behind. And so Pete says to me, Sheryl, if I can find a free way to get there, will you go with me? And I said, sure. And then I forgot about it. And I came home from work one day. It was dark out. And there was Pete's car in my driveway. And I went, oh, no. What did he do? So I walked in the house gingerly. And Pete goes, hey, we're going to hop a freight train. And I'm like, okay. I had some friends that did it the year before, so I was already familiar, and I had made them hammocks to sleep on the train, but I didn't have any extras to bring. I was like, ooh. So that night we left and we hopped a freight train to go to LA. And it was a blast, let me tell you. Except for I can't get in and out by myself. I have to have help because I'm just too short. So, and potty breaks were challenging. So anyway, what we did to entertain ourselves the whole time was play Frisbee. And so he'd be at one end of the boxcar, I'd be at the other. And we would throw the disc and try and get close to the door, but not go out. So we'd start further back and get closer and closer, and then we'd get a little too close, and then we'd back up. Kind of what tennis players do to warm up. And we never lost a disc. So by the time we got to LA, I could putt pretty well. So we got to LA, got to the tournament late, couldn't enter the tournament. But did we care? No, we had so much fun. We were all dirty, grody, grimy, big smiles on our face. And my husband, or he wasn't my husband at the time, my boyfriend at the time, is looking at me like, you did what? And no, it was really fun. So after that, I was known as Boxcar Mama for many years. Oh, yeah.
But I was going to say, I have really an incredible thing also that we really need to give some loud applause for. Sheryl also started Flow. And for those of you who don't know, that is our first women's organization.
Thank you. That, the IFA was our communication system where we looked for everything, where all the tournaments were, where we are going to go the next year. And they had an article Patty Hipsky did. When was this? I can't read the bottom part. Does it say the date? 1977. Patty Hipsky, who worked at the IFA, did an article called Women in Frisbee. And so that was the first one. Yeah, we were at the Rose Bowl. So this is the first Flow update by me and Joe Cahow. So we started at was it 78 or 78 Rose Bowl at Caltech. I decided we need a women's group. So we decided on the name, Flying Disc League of Women. And I was the director, and I did a newsletter. And our job was to work with tournament directors to promote women, to get more of us out there, because most of us were there because of our boyfriends. I'm sad to say, but that's how we got there, and if we wanted to be with them, we had to go along with them. So then we'd play, and that's how we got invited to the Rose Bowl. And I did beat my husband once at a golf tournament. So. Yeah, so we had representatives from Flow at every NAS tournament, at least one or two, to help the tournament director. And, we only did it for a couple years, and then it took off, and then it went on its merry way. But that was the start of it. And then there's one other. Stork did something where he did a vote on money in disc golf and sex, like should there be sex-based divisions? And we, won out, and there was a women's division. So that was the start of that. The $50,000 tournament was the biggest disc golf tournament in our time back then. And guess what? There was no women's division. So I wrote a letter to WAMO, to the execs. And I said, we need a women's division. You guys are overlooking us. And they kindly said thanks, but no. So I have that letter at home. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but but did Sheryl stop there? No. Sheryl called Ed Hedrick, who was running the tournament, and said, Ed, you need some women at that tournament. And he said, you're right. So he invited many of us, and we were there, and we didn't get any money, though. But we got our $100 entry fees paid by Whammo, and I got my airfare paid. So I didn't have to ride a freight train. So that was a big deal to get a women's division. So 1979. So we all did it for fun. We didn't get any money. You know, there was very little. We did shows and taught classes, and we did a lot to promote it with park departments and schools, but there was really no money. So, what? Yes, I taught a college class, so for women, actually, because a lot of women don't want to play in mixed company if they don't know how to do it. So if they come to my class, I could teach them how to do all those throws and catches, and then they could go out and play. So I still have a real fun time when I see young people playing in a park, and I go up to them and go, hey, can I throw? And they look at me like, oh, geez. And so I'll throw a few regular throws, and then I'll throw a few side or overhand wrist flips and a few side arms. Before you know it, I'm around the back, upside down, skipping them. And they're like, who is this old lady? You know? And I'm going, hey, can I give you a lesson, some advice on, you're doing something wrong? You're just using your arm. It's going to fall off soon. Use your whole body. So, that's kind of, my first tournament was, I think, 76 in Boulder, Colorado. And I'll tell you, I met all the people in the magazine, all the women, and it kind of wowed me that I had just been reading about. And golf was my best event, and I choked, and I got last place. And I was embarrassed, humiliated to myself, Nobody else knew me. And I vowed at the awards ceremony, I was talking to Monica Liu, and I said, next year I'm going to come back and win. And I did. And I have 2 new knees during COVID, so that's why I can't play this tournament, but I hope I'm going to work to try and get there for next year. What? Yeah. But I have to learn to use that heavy plastic. What I want to do is challenge you all to use this. And I could kick your you-know-what.
Well, from the bottom of all of our hearts, thank you so much for paving the way for us.
Well, you're quite welcome. Good job.
So from Boxcar Mama, we are moving on to PDGA number 303, Michele Marini. Michele, now I just learned at check-in when you came through that you had some exciting news. You were inducted into the New York Hall of Fame. Yep. But not only that, you are the first female.
I didn't know that. So that makes it extra special. That's really sweet. And it is, the New York State Disc Golf Hall of Fame was such an honor. And I will mention a name, Doug Correa and Royce Razanowski and the team from the Rochester Frisbee Club, which is my roots of the start, is the Rochester Frisbee Club with Jim Palmieri, who is another pioneer of disc golf. And thank you for that little bit of information.
Bill Newman clued me in. He said, he said you were the first female. And If anybody would know New York, Bill knows New York.
Okay. So my starting days go back to 1975. I'm dating my then boyfriend, now husband of 47 years. And he attended Jim Palmieri's first American Flying Disc Open in August of 1974. And he thought he was going to be pretty, do some kicking of the butt. And he went out and just saw all these premier players and just the draw. And Jim Palmieri, to draw a larger audience, offered a car as the grand prize. And Stork, Dan Roddick won it. And so I attended that to see my boyfriend on the Saturday, but it rained out, so we all left. So that was August of 75. He did go on, 74, excuse me. So he did go on in 75 to go with Jim Palmieri and Doug Correa and Jeff Hungerford to drive out to the World Championships, the Frisbee Championships that WAMO hosted. And at that tournament, you could qualify by being a master. So it was a short test of skills. So if you test that or pass that skill test, you could come on your own dime. And so Dave attended that. So then now we're back to Rochester, New York, and we're playing with the club, and we're doing all the events, and there's golf, and there's freestyle, and there's distance, and there's MTA and TRC, and Jim had formatted also double disc court, had a lot of contribution to that event. So we were all round players. And so when the NAS started in 1976, we got a call from Jim and said, hey, we're going to go to the Octad. And that wasn't part of the NAS, I don't believe, but it was an 8-event tournament in New Jersey. And so we went to that and then went to the NASs through 76. So that was my first qualifying year also for the Rose Bowl, the tournament in August. And Sheryl, if you were last, I was second last. As I think, yeah. So I think we both had that determination to just hone those skills and just, keep going and just stay with it. And then Dave and I got married in May of 77. We were still, finding the tournaments to go to. It was just fun to travel to these qualifying tournaments, meet all our friends, see them at the different tournaments, get to know these ladies better. And it was such great camaraderie between the women because we played together in DDC, and we'd all be sent out to go do your self-cough flight and your MTA, and we just would hang out on the sides because we were 15 tops maybe of the women who competed in those years. So we were very honored, and I think, as you say, blessed. Yes, to be on those, in those early days, experiencing, paving the way, and so it was a great honor.
So you were, according to my notes, you were the first lady to have a repeat disc golf at the WAMO's Frisbee Championships in 79 and 80.
I think once PDGA was formed in 77, and that's when I had my membership signed up for it, along with my husband, who's 302, and Doug Correa's 304. I think they saw that disc golf was breaking out. It was still Frisbee golf back then, but it was breaking out as I like this event, I like that event. My husband wanted to go freestyle. His was the finesse sport, so he branched out and did more with freestyle, along with Doug Correa. And so there were some that would start branching out into just those events that they felt more advanced or just felt competent in. So in 1979, I was able to win the Women's World Disc Golf. I think it was called that then, or was it Frisbee? I have to read my mini. The championship, and that with a repeat in 1980. So perhaps the first, when it was officially recognized as its own event, first repeat winner. And then, in 80, now we have a non-WAMO tournament hosted by Tom Schott called the World Flying Disc Championships, and I was able to repeat a championship in the women's disc golf event in 80 and 81. So there's,
And so just to give everybody an idea how much the career earnings have changed,
yes.
what are your career earnings to date?
Woohoo, I broke the $1,000 mark in July. A very great milestone, and it's because I had gap years. We played from 75 through about 80. I did compete in 82, but then it was marriage, career, children, and so it was more recreational sports. did get to play in the Masters tournament. I graduated to the Masters level. I guess you had to be over 35 back in '94, and competed in Atlanta, Georgia, when it was hosted there. Only took second in golf, but it was still fun. To Tina Booth, I'll give a shout out to Tina. Yep.
And while we're talking about first, this is your first major
My
disc golf.
first major event, yeah. So I am thrilled. Yeah. So again, with all the again, as being more a recreational player, it was in I want to believe 2018 that I met Elaine King, and because she lived nearby where we lived, I wanted to introduce myself and meet another legend. And so we had lunch, and then the next year she I guess she took my email, found out about the Women's Global event. So it was her first hosting of the Women's Global event that I got my itch back, and just enjoyed playing, meeting more women, and that it was an all women's event was just, yeah, truly phenomenal. And then we had COVID, so it was a year gap, and then attended the next Women's Global, and then, saw different tournaments that, were convenient. I'm sorry to say that, but I wasn't going to travel a lot, and my husband's a retired pastor, so we had other obligations on weekends. So I just would find the day tournaments on Saturdays, or I love the C-tier flex starts. So I've been doing some of those, and I love it when they're fundraisers. For the one was a pet fundraiser, one was a church missions group to Haiti. So I'll find events like that and participate.
Michele, I'm sure everybody has been enthralled with your first, and we thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, we're going to wrap up this panel here with number 970, Tami Pellicane, who, her and I actually have something in common, I believe. Tami also has a Guinness record for distance. So another fellow crusher down here. Tami was the first woman to throw over 100 meters with a pre-beveled. So that is absolutely incredible. So Tami, tell us a little bit more about your history and story.
Well, thank you. We have an acronym in our house. It's called BB. It's before bevel. So, so you can kind of mark how things occur. I actually started when I was in high school. My brother, some of you, actually a couple of people have come up and mentioned his name. He's Tony Pellicane. He's played for a number of years. But he and I used to play on an ultimate team. Now, this is when I was in high school. So I was 15, 16, back in like 76. And we decided to go to Sarasota, Florida. There was a North America Series event and compete there. And he wanted to go compete. I just wanted to go watch. Then once we get there, he turns to me and goes, "Guess what?" I'm like, "What?" This is a 16-year-old talking to an 18-year-old older brother. "I'm not going to drive you home unless you register and compete in this event." So I registered. And then we went the following year, and I placed and realized that this is a sport I could do, because a lot of times when I played ultimate, I was playing with people from 6 foot up. I was one of 2 women on the team. The other was the wife of one of the teammates, and we're playing against university men's teams. So when you think about how far back, seeing all these women here, it's just stunning to me. I can't tell you how exciting it is to see all these women playing. You guys being here is fantastic, and I'm so happy, so thrilled that you have a different environment to enter the sport and find the joy we found and the friendships. Tita reached out to me a few months back and said, "Hey, Tami," she's driving cross country, and she talked to me about this panel. I went, "Oh." Oh, because let's face it, I have I had a few medical challenges, and I went, "Okay, let's do this. It's for the development of women. Let's make this happen," and it's the best decision I've ever made to come here and see how the sport has changed. So I have a challenge for you guys. you guys have all come and you're here, and we are absolutely elated to be together. But I do challenge you to think about what you want to do to help the growth of women in the sport. I mean, this room is so powerful with so many women in it who care and are passionate. So please, tonight when you're chilling before the comp, think about what you want to do to make it better for the next generation and the people who are going to follow in your footsteps. Is it carrying? I mean, I used to carry like plastic in the back of my car. If I saw little kids throwing, I'm like, oh, they can't throw 170-gram discs. It's just, oh. So you get a couple discs out, you run over and give them to them. And they're like, oh. No, it's for free. Really, we just want your kids to throw so they don't hurt themselves. You're right. But there's things like this. But what is it that you can and are willing to do? Is it grabbing a friend or 5 people, 5 females to go to a course and play? Because remember, we actually was mentioned earlier, and I thought it was key, that women tend to go play with other women, because when they play with the men and they're outthrown by 60, 100 yards sometimes, it can be daunting when they're first starting. I mean, once you played for a while and you're starting to outthrow them, it's a different story. Then they want to walk off the course. So when you have people walk off at a state championship event because they found out you entered not the women's division, because the women, when you entered the women's division, decided they would stop competing. So you tell them you're not entering the women's division, and then you just enter the open division, and then men start walking off the court when they found out. And I didn't even know, but my husband now is PDGA number 558, Nick Hart, and he's the one who saw them, and John Halk, if any of you know him, told him. I'm like, oh man, because you do all this stuff to develop the sport, and then you find out that people are walking away. You're like, wait, don't do that. That's not why we're here. But anyway, so.
And then Tami also went over and played before it was the European Open. It was the England Open, and you competed as well as for the World Champ WIFDF competition in 1985 over in Sweden. You want to talk about your first trip overseas?
So WIFDF, I ultimately became a WIFDF board member for a number of years. And they were trying to develop an international global presence for disc golf. And they were doing this tournament in Helsingborg, Sweden. I decided I was going to go and support this. And I'm like, oh, how am I going to do this? I don't have the money for this. I'm in college. I'm taking out. And yeah, they don't. Freight trains don't work well over that big pond, right? That's a small water hazard. But so I went to my grandfather and I went to actually Nick Hart, my now husband. I said, can I borrow money to do this tournament? I really want to do it. It's a once in a lifetime chance. And for me, it's very, very important. So they loaned me money, and then I looked at everything and went, okay, I realize I have to come in first or second at this tournament. I don't like to step into those things. But I really wanted to do it. So I stayed, actually, Michele and Dave were in England at the time. So I went over, competed in the European Open Championships, stayed with them for a couple of days. Then I went on to Helsingborg, Sweden, and competed there. I was very, very blessed and fortunate to place first. So I won my money back.
And I took second.
So Michele was second, she said. So we had an amazing time there, and I got invited from there to continue on to Finland and go compete in a tournament in Finland. It was one of the first times we had ever had anybody a professional female player who had the opportunity to compete. And it was just an amazing experience. I mean, and we did a lot of things called the overall. Many of you have heard. There are different events, and there's this one event that's self-caught flight where you can throw, and you try and put it kind of on a window ledge and have it come down. And I will never forget, because this pod of Italians came up to me and asked how to throw. And I'm like, okay, we're doing, I don't speak Italian, I speak a little Spanish, but I'm going, okay, so we get the idea across, righty up there to the first two Italians throw, and I'm like, great, true, they're getting it. The third one comes up, and it turns out they're a lefty, and they're going the other way. And I'm like, wait, that's a different throw. So we got, but it was just these amazing experiences with people that are just, to this day, you remember these things. And in trying to go over, we went over to Taiwan. I think we're the first group to go to Taiwan, and competing there. And I am not a guts player. Full disclosure, I may throw far. I used to be able to and throw fast. Guts, I was not a fan. But what I realized is they had women who were watching. So if you didn't go up there, they never see a female throwing guts. So we went up there and I started throwing just basically turnaround guts throws, because we used to do the turnaround for distance. People I heard don't do that nowadays, but so we would do that. But it's all those things that you have to think about. Wow, how is this going to impact someone else? If they see a woman throw over 100 meters, suddenly that opens the door. They can do that. They see someone throwing guts or whatever it is. Suddenly that opens the door for the person behind them to come through and take it even farther. So please come up if you think about it during the tournament and let me know what your challenge is.
Thank you, Tami. You shared something with us. Is it okay if I share that? Yeah. It's appropriate with the shirts they're wearing. She has a great accomplishment. She is a newly cancer survivor. So we want to open up to the audience. Keep your questions PG because we have Boxcar Mama up here. And this is being videoed. So does anybody have a question? I see you first. What's your question?
I was just curious, so I signed up on my phone for my PDGA number. I was wondering how you got your PDGA numbers. Did you have to write in and mail for them? How does that?
Great question. Snail mail.
So again, I lived right near where Steady Ed lived, and it was a matter of mailing a check.
And how much was the stamp?
It was $10. So, yeah, David and I and a bunch of people had finished that Octad tournament in '77, and the following Monday on the Memorial Day weekend, on the Monday was the first PDGA kind of on the East Coast at Craigmere. So we had to register for the PDGA right prior to attending that tournament. So we did it just, so a lot of us are. Yeah, right at the tournament. So I remember you're going from the registration table, PDGA done, registration for the tournament done, and off you go.
Yeah, and for those younger people who do not know what a check is, we used to have to write out 120 and then do a little 00 slash over the 100 and then sign it. You had to sign it. So it has changed.
But it was mentioned earlier, the Frisbee World magazine might come, and in it was information. So you had to literally take the page out, fill everything. Everything was snail mail. Today you do it in 5 minutes, and I'm like, oh, no. It was a process that took sometimes over a month, and then you also had to do we thought in the southeastern United States and Florida, you had to do a skills test to get yourself to a point where you could then enter, and actually be a PDGA member, because you had to have, these skills tests of being able to throw these angled throws so many times.
Oh, wow. With this disc.
Sarah Hokum is going to join us up here. She has a question.
Cheryl wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's that trunk story of Ed.
We can save it for the end.
Okay, there's a trunk story you'll hear later. But I think it was maybe at that tournament, I had to just give him $10 in person to get my number. And I could pick my number. So I could have had lower than her.
Say that, okay?
I could have, but
they
I
all
chose.
Say that.
It's true. I didn't know what your number was. Anyway, no, you could pick your number in the beginning. And so I wanted 76 because it was the bicentennial year for our country. So I chose 76, which was the first 75 people got a free t-shirt. So I was the first one that didn't get a t-shirt. So of course, another phone call to Ed Hedrick. Ed, so he sent me one. But 77 didn't get one.
We have a great story about what else she got from Ed too, but we're gonna hold on that.
I just wanted to tell you, we were at the course at the Grove, Oak Grove, and Ed was there, and he had a clipboard, and we just signed up. And when he got the disc in, we went to his house. His daughter had just given birth to a baby. She's sitting in the rocking chair, surrounded by boxes of these discs, and we picked up the disc. So that's how.
Hi, ladies. So happy to be here. I'm so happy to see you and hear all your experiences. I was wondering, though, as we have all experienced in this room, and you have probably for them more than any of us, we've all experienced resistance to women playing this sport in one form or another at any level. I was wondering if you guys would share an experience of that you've had, and then maybe what you did to combat that or what you wish you could have done.
That's a tough one. Thank you, Sarah.
I have to say at a national level and a local level, I had a lot of support because I had a sibling, a brother who played, as I mentioned earlier, and I had a team of people, like in Florida, we called ourselves Team Bonsai, which is Beauty of Life, and the bunch of us would go to tournaments together. But then what would happen is when you got to a tournament, you'd be playing with people who didn't know you from Adam and had never seen you throw or play, and some of the comments and things like that. And I truly just got to the point where I went, you know what? I'm going to play my game. I'm going to play it as well as I can. And I'm going to do the best I can today. Because the reality is, if I can channel them out and leave them on the sidelines, they're just chuff. They're behind me, right? I am focused on what can I do. And if this is hole 5, it's the first hole of the day, and it's the first hole of the tournament for you. No matter what, every hole. Now this is like when you're in full full mindset, right? And that usually would end up really well for me. I swapped places with a number of people in the open division. I gave my slots up sometimes to other men who didn't qualify in discathon and things like that. And I had people walk off the course and go, you're never going to beat me again. These are men, grown men walking off the course saying this. I'm this 5'2" person. I'm going, whatever, because the reality is that's your problem. Walk away with it. It's not mine. But it takes a lot of kind of energy to get to, I think, that point. The other thing I did was I got involved in designing courses and organizing so that people, I kind of developed around me a support system in the sense of, wow, they already knew me. So they kind of helped protect me in a bubble. I didn't hear as much of it because I was involved, I was making a difference, and I was adding value in different ways. But I ultimately, no pun intended, but when I went to Cincinnati, I was in 87, and I talked to a lot of women in the area, and we developed things we call women's designated tournaments so that women would know what tournaments to go to in 87 where there would be other female competitors. And that really helped a lot because then we had enough for a foursome at a tournament of different levels. And we called them, I think it was women's designated tournaments, and I just created a list and, did a round robin. And this is all with phone calls and snail mail. Remember, today it's much easier. You got these Google forms and all this stuff. but it made a big difference at the time in helping get enough energy, positive energy together. But this is why it's so important to bring other women with you, because just seeing people, 4 women on all these holes on the course here, and they're all foursomes. It's truly awesome.
Just real quick, again, being multidisciplined, ultimate was one of my sports. And to finally see women's ultimate develop in the 70s, mid 70s, so 76, 77, 78, to then see those women go on. So it was, I think, just now, again, the camaraderie of, hey, oh, you play that. Oh, you could come do this. Hey, you throw distance and you chuck it down the field for an ultimate pass. You can do that on the golf course. And so that helped. So the resistance lessened, I guess, as more were exposed and more teams were formed. I think from ultimate, he had a big input on disc golfers.
I was going to say that in SoCal, at tournaments that we ran and other tournaments that people ran, we didn't start off with women foursomes. Everyone was blended. So the men got used to playing with women and seeing how well women threw. And then we would, the second round, we would be in our own division. And then the only resistance would be the guys who didn't play very well. They had to fill out the foursome, and they weren't so bad as resistant against us. They were just bitter that they didn't do well. So I think the key to resistance, Sarah, is to just play your best, and they always go, okay, you can play better than I'll be quiet.
And I like to say, and I learned this a lot from Tami, is to find your voice. Because Tami and I were traveling in Japan. Tami had one before the first Japan Open. I won that, but the year before, Tami won it. So now Tami and I are in 87. We're traveling around Japan together. And everybody wants to interview us, all the guys, because only the guys interview women. But they would interview the men, and they'd have all these questions. And when it would come to Tami or myself, they'd say, so are you married? But I learned from Tami, yeah, that was the question. So I learned from Tami to ignore that question and to be proactive with our voices and say why we were there, what we were doing, and to turn it around. So your voices are very strong. Yeah. Remember that.
I couldn't really think of any resistance story. I've grown up my whole life playing sports. I was a tomboy, so it didn't matter to me that I was short and a female. It didn't hold me back. And you know what? I used to be a volleyball player too. I didn't know that we had that in common. Obviously, I was not a striker. I was. Anyway, so in that, in 1989, my husband, who's in the Disc Golf Hall of Fame, died suddenly. And so I was with a 6 and a 4-year-old. And so I exited disc golf at that point to raise my kids and get a career and do all that. So in the 90s, a friend said, hey, do you want to go to this disc golf tournament? And I said, okay. And so I went, and it was a short finesse course in Seattle. And I got there a little late again. I don't know why. And so I was in the last foursome, and I had 2 young guys about 19. And of course, they see this lady, oh, she's in our group. Not again. And so that was the resistance that the only one I could come up with. And so the first hole, they tee off and they walk off and leave me. They don't even wait for me to throw. Like, how rude is that? Right? So I wait till they're out of the way, and then I go. And so I get to the second hole, and they just, what'd you get? And then I told them, and they like, oh, okay. So then they did the same exact thing on the second hole and walked off. So I waited again, threw, light plastic shoe, by the way. They're playing with beveled edges, but I wasn't. So the third hole was at the top of an incline hill, and it was a straight shot down a corridor, and the pole hole was at the bottom, bushes on either side. And I'm hearing people swearing at the bottom out, you know, with their beveled discs go, oh, you know. And so I happened to be throwing first because I got better than them on the second hole. So it was the first time they had got to see me tee. So I'm up there and I float it right down and hit the chains. Now it wasn't a hole in one, but it hit the chains, and they just looked at me and go, who are you? And I didn't say a word. I didn't talk to them the whole time. And so on the course, the rest of the time, they're asking everyone, who is this lady? You know, who is, you know, and it was really funny. But I just ignored them because of the way they treated me. But that was how I dealt with it.
Should we go ahead and tell them your story about how you got your first bevel? Was that your first beveled edge disc that you took from the trunk?
No.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Okay, now back in the day with the... What? It was back in the day. Okay, the first heavier golf discs were Moonlighter plastic, you know, the same molds we'd been throwing the lighter stuff with. But they became the go-to golf disc, right, that Ed was making in Lakeport. So Ed was at a tournament, I was there, and he had his trunk open, and he had a new run, right? So I had heard him promise, you know, telling people, well, I've promised Tom Kennedy, the winner of the $50,000 disc golf tournament, the heaviest disc in this run. And I went, okay, file that away. And then, you know, we were all milling around, and he was selling a few of the other lighter ones. And then I don't know how the topic got on this, but Ed was kind of a teaser. What do you call him? A flirt.
He was a businessman.
He was a businessman back then. So he said, Sheryl, if you give me a big kiss, I'll give you a pic of the discs in my trunk. And I go, okay. So I gave him a big wet willy, and I searched every disc until I found that disc for Tom Kennedy. And I found it, and I pulled it out and said, I want this one. And he goes, oh, no. He didn't know that I had heard him say that. And he goes, okay, I'm going to honor the deal. He goes, you can have it. And I said, okay. And so Tom Kennedy got the second heaviest disc. And I apologized, Tom, but Doug got that one.
All right. Do we have anybody else wanting to ask PG questions? It's your only time. You're going to see these ladies together.
Sarah's coming up. Hold on.
Sarah's on her way.
Mostly I was wondering what you would give as advice for women now to try to grow the sport in the current condition as it is. What do you think is the most effective or best ways to do that from your perspective?
Yeah, she is.
So I'm a retired educator, and what I learned is you meet them where they are. You can say, hey, let's be at the park, but, you know, means going to the park. So schools is a really good place. A brick and mortar place is a very good place. It's something that's already established, and then you can grow from there. But meet them where they are, and that's also in their mindset, and that's also in their skill level. Where are they? So that's what I learned, trying to diversify the sport, trying to focus on women, on girls, on children, to go where they are.
Real quick, I invited our young adult group from our church, and for some of them it was the first time, and there was more women than men that came, so it was real fun. And again, just another avenue where some people, let's go try it. But I provided all the discs, and she said, let's go have fun. So, and it was a short course, so they did enjoy it.
Back when I was in college at the University of Florida, one of the people who lived on my dorm, her name was Tracy Beeman. Her dad was the PGA director. This is ball golf. So I actually reached out. They're from Maryland, and I went home with her, one weekend, and because I asked to speak to her dad specifically. This is back in, a long time ago, about the growth of the sport and how ball golf got their sport developed so much, and what his thoughts were on soccer at the time and the development of other sports from a professional perspective. And he came back to the youth. Everything he talked about was creating sections for teenagers and youth to try ball golf in these big golf centers and introducing them and different things. So what I did is I take that back, and to Tita's point, Tita was an educator. I was not associate. My degree is in computer science. I was in a completely different field. But what we did is we went to, we got a disc golf course in Texas, and it kind of started because they had an event. It was called a lock-in for all these high school kids to avoid drugs. And I happened to be living in Lubbock at the time due to work. And I said, hey, I heard about it. I said, would you like some Frisbee demos, teaching, da-da-da. So we went. And at the time, Nick was visiting, and we went, and we, all night for like 6 hours, had these clinics. And we did 10 and 15 kids, and we did, showed them, taught them backhands, taught them sidearms, taught them scoobies, everything, every disc. We had a pole. So we taught them all these games. We also taught them Gollum. Any of you guys played Gollum before? Oh, to set the record straight, I heard, I heard through the grapevine that someone called something a scoober. That was not. A scoober is a backhand that in DDC you step up, and if you're, I won't do this to your disc, but it's upside down here, and you throw, when you actually release, you're targeting up there, so it falls in. So the flight trajectory is going to go there and literally float into an individual. Now, if you're paying DDC, it's going to be a burn. It's going to come in really fast, and you're going to have a hard time catching it. But that's what a great throw to get over, like for disc golf, to get over trees and shrubs and things. And it's a lovely little throw. It's just the opposite of a finger flick here. But we went and taught all these kids how to do this at this close-in. And there were like 600-700 high schoolers there. So then we got the idea, and there were several people, teachers there, and then we got invited into the Texas public school system. And then for about 6 or 7 years, as long as we were able, we would go and teach teachers. In that school system, they have something called an in-service day, where they take all the teachers and go and teach them how to do. And we knew if you taught a teacher how to throw, that would propagate to all these other people. And so that was the path that we started to take at that time, because then the teachers would teach the unit they felt comfortable with in throwing at that time. Then sorry, I thought about this a lot.
Keep going.
This is kind of a passion of mine. But so I happen to work in a corporate environment, and we were able to put in the third corporate course in the United States. It's there to this day. I didn't play it for 10 years because of some medical challenges. And we went back, and it's there. And I'm like, yes. But I was trying to really get people who might not have ever been exposed to the sport, exposed to disc golf. It's a phenomenal, as we all know, game. But I also, at the same time, we had people do outings, so that they would do a group team building activity on the disc golf course. I just literally gave them boxes and boxes of discs so that they had them there at the fitness center so people could walk out and use them. So that was another way. That was more kind of siloed because it's company specific. But if we could do something like that on a broader scale, and we've got a footprint of it already having been done in a couple places, it's a great, I think it's a great opportunity to get at a corporate level to target people who are a little bit, they're not the youth. But if we truly want to grow our sport, we need to grow our audience for disc golf. And by growing our audience for disc golf, we can do that through the youth and the school systems, and Girl Scouts as a program, Boy Scouts. But how many of you have ever supported and gone to and helped out a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout troop or taught youth? Okay, that's awesome. Way to go. Thank you. Because I personally believe that if you get 2 or 3 kids in a family, guess who's going to go with them? Yeah. The parents, the friends. They bring everybody with them. So it's a chain reaction. Yeah. So.
And I just want to say, I think that women's leagues, I know our weekly women's league has grown tremendously because that's how people feel more comfortable coming and playing once a week. It's a good way to do it too.
Okay, I'm going to change the subject.
Oh, because I was about to ask, is there anyone else who has any other questions? If not, if any of you have any other fun, good stories.
I just remembered the weirdest disc golf tournament I was ever at. If you ever go to Montana, the Rocky Mountain rough terrain frisbee experts do a week-long tournament in Helena or somewhere. And you know, how many people have had a bullfight on the 5th hole? Nobody?
Sure.
So we had to wait until the bullfight was done. So we picked up cow pies and threw those. And that was our entertainment, because it was a wait we had to wait for. But that was the strangest. I think the one hole was 2 miles long. It was great, though. I mean, I have that memory.
Susie, do you have any fun memories?
Lots of them, but it's okay.
Are you sure? One
I'm
more?
sure.
Just pick
No.
up one? Okay. Tita? I'll end. Yeah, or also afterwards, if anyone would love to come up and ask for these beautiful women's autographs or any more other.
Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we have plenty of time, so we're good on time.
There was one other thought I really wanted to leave with this audience. We're all up here. All of us have stepped back from the sport for a period of time and stepped back in. Because we're women in our world, and we have other bands. You know, I'm excited. My daughter's here and from New York, and her boyfriend. So, but we all have, you know, lives that we're living, and we obviously are passionate about life, or we wouldn't be, you know, playing disc golf, right? But don't hesitate. If you find yourself 10 years down the road and you stepped out of the sport for some reason, all I'll say is do not hesitate to step back in. It's amazing. It's welcoming. Don't hesitate, and bring people with you.
So this is called the Pioneer Women Ladies of Disc Golf, but only because we were at the right place at the right time. And that's why we have these low PDGA numbers. And when I thought about this party for me, I thought I wanted to gather the women that had 2 or 3 digit, who held the 2 or 3 digit PDGA numbers, because they had a story, because they're the ones who would organize and go to tournaments, and in many cases, what division? Forget money, forget prizes, trophies. There wasn't that. But what do we have in common? The love for the sport. And like you said, to your point, Tami, that's right. We step back, you know, careers, and go back in, and we continue. So our sport, our beloved sport, is still very, very young. So we may be called pioneers, but so are you. You are, each and every one of you. Every time you hand a disc and a smile to somebody, you've already changed the world. And even more if you teach them how to throw that disc. So remember that, again, you're more powerful than, I'm just going to remind you that you're very powerful. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else?
So if nobody has any more questions, we're going to allow you to approach the table in a single line. No, it doesn't have to be a single line. Just bombard them and to get their autographs. Do you have a question? Oh, I'm sure they will allow you guys to get a picture with all of them. So don't bombard. If someone's getting a picture, don't be like bombarding their picture and be respectful. But this, do you want to say something?
I just thought of something I wanted to.
No, it has to come on the mic.
Oh, it has to come on the mic. Okay, so there's a group of women.
Put it closer.
1 second.
There's a group of women here who are 70 and older. And they got together and became Golden Girls, okay? And Judy back there. Judy, can you stand up? She kind of started this group. But Sylvia, how long have you been playing, Sylvia Bob? Is in the Disc Golf Hall of Fame, and she is an amazing player. So even if you get to the age where you feel like it's really, why am I doing this? Because you love the sport, you love the people you play with, it gets you outside, it keeps you strong and healthy. So, yes, keep playing.
You all have taken part in something that a lot of people will only regret that they didn't come to, because this is amazing. You guys are a wealth of information. I admire you as someone that's working in the sport. I admire you guys so much. I learned from you guys the stories that Stork has told me, and now I get to meet all of you in person that Stork has actually talked about. And I just appreciate that so much. You guys soak it up, because these ladies are a force to be reckoned with, and the Golden Girls back there, it's amazing. So guys, take the opportunity. We want to thank IDEO for providing us with our shoes, and then Sarah Nicholson, Throw Pink. These shirts look amazing on them. Yeah, thank you, PDJ Radio. Thank you, everything that had anything to do with this. Lynn Gerber, thank you so much for helping Tita organize this. I also want to thank Good Time Hour, Mace Man and Mr. B. They have highlighted these ladies on his show. Make sure you go to his YouTube channel, because he's got some great information that he got while they were signing autographs earlier. Jen, I want to thank you. It's been a great time hosting with you, and it's been a great time listening to all your stories. Thank you guys so much.